All right, well, let's go. We're going to kind of get rolling here. So, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is the Real Estate Backstory. My name is Alan Richardson. This is Ming Richardson. We are your hosts for the Real Estate Backstory. So, I'm the managing broker at Maximum Realty and Realtor Partners.
I am the compliance broker from Maximum One Realty and Realtor Partners.
And this is our weekly blog, podcast, because you can find us at realestatebackstory.com. You can catch us on Facebook. You can also catch us on our podcast, which is on iTunes and the whole 9 yards. So every week, we are here and we just kind of talk about what's going on in the real estate market. And we have exciting and helpful friends that join us just like this week. So this week we have Deborah Kalish. I know I always botch your name, Deb. I really apologize. And then Miss Beth Hudson from Luter, Larkin & Hunter. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. How are y'all?
Great. Thank you. I'm sorry my video isn't working, so
no worries.
Can't figure that out, but we're great. Thank you.
Well, here, we'll give you.
There we go.
There's a picture of it. So everyone can just imagine your lips are moving now. So
there you go. That's better. That's a better picture anyway. For me.
We love having our relationship with Luter, Larkin & Hunter. You guys do a phenomenal job taking care of our agents, and we really appreciate that. If anyone has any kind of questions or issues, if they have any, if you don't have a go-to attorney, please consider reaching out to Beth and Deborah. You can reach them at Max One VIP at Luter Law, and they are wonderful about answering questions and just everything that we need in the real estate world kind of thing when it comes to real estate closings. So what are you guys seeing happening in the market right now?
Well, I think I mentioned. Oh, do you want to talk about it, Beth?
Well, I thought I could introduce it, and we've had it come up a couple of times, and we have an email chain between all the attorneys at Luter, Larkin & Hunter where we kind of bounce ideas off of each other. And one of the attorneys that asked a question, she had a buyer that has a primary contract on a property, and there was a backup offer, and one of the agents to the backup, or the buyer's agent to the backup offer, asked to buy out the primary contract. And so we were bouncing ideas off of each other if this was possible or not. And it turns out it's a terrible idea, and it could lead to a lot of problems.
Well, I know that we are seeing a lot
and
of
I've
folks
been
be really creative out there and having to be very creative. So.
Right.
I think, and I've actually been asked that a couple times by different different agents, and I think it's I understand trying to figure out how are we going to get through this low inventory, and that's certainly a creative idea. But what we found out is that it is a violation of, I'll just read you what we found out. It's a violation of license law, and for one thing, and it could also, well, I'll go over that. It's a violation of two things, very serious actually, and then we have a suggestion on a possibility of how that could be handled, but violation of or have their license revoked, it is considered unfair trade practices under license law to actually do that. And that section is the licensees shall not engage in any of the following unfair trade practices: inducing any party to a contract of sale or lease or a brokerage agreement to break such contract or brokerage agreement for the purpose of substituting in lieu thereof any other contract or brokerage agreement with another principal. And that's exactly what that is. So that's a big no-no. And the second thing is it could give rise to what's called a tortious interference with a contract, or type of lawsuit. So damages, tort is, damages to somebody else. So it could actually damage the seller or the existing buyer in an existing contract. So it's actually a really bad idea. And so and I know it's a tough time, but I mean, the only suggestion I can make in that situation, if there was an existing contract and the existing buyer was willing to assign their interest in the existing contract for a fee to a new buyer and the seller consents to it, that's not asking them to breach their contract. That's, assigning the existing contract while it's still in place. And that would be the only suggestion that I have for trying to, quote, take the place of an existing buyer in that situation.
Okay,
And there's, no other way.
okay, because I was going to ask you if there's consent between the first buyer and the seller to allow the second buyer to take over, then it would be not a violation of license law.
I can't imagine that would be real. No, the first buyer is not going to give up willingly.
Well, the thing is that what I'm afraid is that this actually allows your iBuyers and also buyers like industrial buyer go out and basically gobble up all the contract and then turn right around and sell it and assign it to the actual end user.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, if the fact is that the chance of that is pretty slim because the market is so tight. That existing buyer is probably really wants, they really want that house. But I get what you're saying, but it's such a battle for the houses. I don't know that anyone could sweep in and just get them all, a bunch under contract when there's so much competition,
what we are seeing
anyway. And then you can't, there's this.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
You there? You're on mute, Deb.
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to say, I don't think the current market lends itself all that much to some big investor sweeping in and buying up a bunch of houses when there's so much competition. And there's already, I think you know this better than we do. There's already this situation where the prices are coming in higher than the appraisals. So I just think that, leave this alone unless a buyer has cash and wants to pay more than the house is worth, and I don't know.
Well, what we are seeing right now sorry. We're seeing where backup offers are a big deal now. Used to be no one wasted any time with a backup offer. It was just kind of seen as a waste of time. But one thing that we are seeing is that a lot of the folks who get a property under contract, they try and get it under contract and let's say it doesn't appraise, or we're seeing where a lot of folks are going out writing a very clean contract, and then they go get their inspection. They ask for 5,000 things, and the seller will just, and if you have a solid backup contract, they'll just terminate, and I mean, they'll let that one die, and then they'll go to another one. So it's one of those where backup offers we're seeing as a really, really big deal, and a much smarter play, in my opinion, than it is to necessarily go out and try and buy the other one, which I can understand and see why that's a terrible mistake on that side of things.
And one of the misconception I see is that investor thinks that, we're in this bubble, that the housing market is going to bust here soon. The problem is that, we have more equity than what we did back in 2008. There's no crazy loan with stated income and stuff like that. So make the long story short is that, we're not in a bubble. We're not going to bust, not for a while, and like you said, and because the seller knows what the market's doing, and they're asking some of them are asking for a very ridiculous price and are getting it because you have buyer that's desperate, and also they are willing to pay over appraisal and guarantee anywhere from $5,000 to I've seen as high as $30,000 and $35,000.
Well, that kind of opens the way for where we wanted to kind of. One thing that we'd like to include, and if anyone needs this is the special stipulation that we've been throwing out there, and a lot of our agents have been using. And this is if your buyers are willing to make up a difference in cash for a low appraisal, this is the special stipulation that we've been recommending to be used out there for that case. Are you guys seeing a lot of that come through in your contracts?
Yes. Yeah, we are.
We are too. And so, it comes down to, on our side of things, we've got to be communicating with our buyers that this is a reality. If you're trying to win some of these houses, we're seeing where probably the most popular sales tactic right now is to go slightly under market and then just let the bloodshed begin, for lack of a better term.
Oh yeah.
Because I think right now, I think 70 something offers is the most offers that we have on a single property, which is just astronomical kind of thing. And
what?
of those,
70?
over half are over asking. Yeah, 70 with over half over asking. So
what?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Well, you got to think about inventory for 150 or less is non-existent right now for a move-in ready home, even though it may not be the most desirable school district, but the fact is the price is right.
Yeah. So,
God,
depending on your buyer situation, being able to do that is you've got to go in prepared, and you have to have that conversation before you go show properties at this point. And so we'll be including this special stipulation in the notes section if anybody needs it and wants to use it, that kind of thing.
But anyway, it's a crazy market, and I'm sure you guys are seeing it right now as well on your end. It's a good ride right now for sellers. So just buyer, unfortunately, it's not your market now, but you got to make sure you got some cash in the game.
Well, but interest rates still are really low. They actually dropped a little bit last week. We'll go over that in a minute, but it's not terrible for our buyers right now, but it's very, very competitive. And I think as more vaccines come up, we'll be seeing a little bit more inventory lighten up.
Yes.
So is there anything else you guys are seeing over there on your side of the transactions? How are closings going?
I mean, we're as busy as ever.
Oh, great.
I have seen is with these competitive offers, people are putting in very short turnaround times for the closing date, which is putting a lot of pressure on everybody to get it to the closing table. And sometimes there's not even enough time to run a title exam. So that's one thing we're seeing. But it's been great. It's been steady. It's been very busily steady for over a year now.
That is wonderful.
Awesome.
So,
well, we're seeing the same thing here. So
I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Beth, too, because we have seen closing, contracts with closing in a week and a half, closing in 2 weeks, and we are doing everything we can to make that happen, and it's crazy. It's just crazy, but we're very fortunate and we appreciate it.
Yeah, we're glad business is great for all of us, and we do appreciate you guys, both of you, keep us updated in our industry, and let us know what's going on, and also going to fair housing. I'm sorry, not fair housing. Unfair trade practice in reference to buyouts.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
All right,
Absolutely.
And you're welcome to hang out with us.
Thank
if you
you
got
for
a run, we
having
totally
us.
understand. But we're going to kind of jump on ahead here. So.
And y'all don't just because you're not
Thank
Max
you guys.
One agent.
Thank you, Ming and Alan.
Thank you. Just because you're not Max One agent doesn't matter. Give them a call. Their emails are on our screen right now, and reach out.
You can still hit them up at Max One VIP at Luter Law. So.
Yep.
All right.
Let's
start jumping into what's going on in our marketplace. So first up, we have quite a good bit of positive news market-wise. The manufacturing index hit its highest level last month in 38 years. So our manufacturing has really, really gone up, and and you can see that that's kind of carrying across throughout the entire economy right now. Overall, the consumer confidence index is 109.7. It's one of its highest points ever. U.S. car sales shot back up. You can see where it's been for the last year, and now it's at its highest level for a long time. At the same time, jobs reports came in really, really great. It far exceeded any kind of expectations on where unemployment is. So that was also a really good sign that things really are
moving in the right
moving in a really, really
direction.
positive direction as far as the overall economy. Real estate, especially residential real estate, is highly driven by supply versus demand. But we know that the better the economy is, the more people that are able to buy in homes. So mortgage applications, you may see on the news that mortgage applications were down 5% for the week. And that is true. They're 51% higher than they were last year. Okay. So yeah, you may see it that they were down. Anytime that there's a down arrow, anything on news, and when it comes to real estate, there's all kinds of news. But overall, mortgage rates dropped just a touch last week. They dropped down to 3.13%. They were at 3.16. So it is, we're going to continue to see that level off. It's probably going to stay under 3.5 this year, but we're not looking at this going back under 3 probably.
Hopefully not.
Well, I mean, I'm not hoping it doesn't, but I just don't see how it really can, kind of thing. The economy's doing really good. If inflation starts shooting up, that's when we're going to see the Fed step in, and that will definitely affect us on there as well. So there are some concerns on that side of things. CFPB, thank you, came out and they made some recommendations about some proposed rule changes to prohibit mortgage services from foreclosing on delinquent borrowers until 2022. So we've kind of been expecting this as well, but basically CFPB is recommending that there is a foreclosure moratorium through the rest of this year. So a lot of times we get a lot of these, hey, can I get a list of foreclosures? Hey, we're looking for off-market properties. We're looking for, listen, they're not out there, kind of thing. And we're not seeing that foreclosures have anything close to enough inventory. Even if all the foreclosures, or pre-foreclosure property came on the market, we still don't have enough inventory. So that really doesn't change anything. So they are looking, most of these moratoriums were planning to expire. We really are expecting that all of them will be extended through 2022 or into 2022 before we actually see any kind of change on that. So
even though there are a couple of HUD and maybe a couple of Fannie Mae, because I get notification foreclosure, but those are very rare, and you're actually competing like you would in a regular resale, and with HUD is all sealed bids. So it is what it is. And owner occupant has the first priority.
Yeah, but we're still seeing even that. We've had several of our agents who are making offers on HUD homes, and they're having 40, 50 offers on those as well. Mm-hmm. And HUD is now fair market, the same as any other foreclosures or anything else out there in the market. So we are continuing to see that that's going to be a challenge for us. There is not a light on the horizon when it comes to hoping that there's some foreclosure, which sounds terrible. I don't mean it that way. I'm not hoping there's foreclosure, but there's been a lot of people that have been planning on that.
Well, a lot of investors asking our agents said, hey, do you have any foreclosure on lists? With all these moratorium coming on expiring, what's the inventory? And honestly, there's none right now.
There really isn't. Matter of fact, right now our inventory is down 52% this year versus last year. New homes are down 20% year over year. And nationally, our listing prices are at 15.6% over prior year. Now, here in the Atlanta area, our new listings count year over year is down 29.3, almost 30% down. The active listing count is down 60%. So whereas nationally it's down 50, here in our area, it's down 60%. Our median list price year over year is up 19%. And our median days on market is down 18 days from last year. So it's not in, our inventory is super, super tight right now.
Well, if you look at the data, you have new listing of negative 30%, while your median price is going up. And also your active listing going down by 60%. So you understand why all these folks are making desperate purchase offers right now, and by guaranteeing up to a certain amount.
Yep. Now, of that, I went ahead and pulled this data as well, and this is based on the three different price ranges of homes in the Atlanta area: low, middle, and top. Which one has the highest growth? And actually, it's the middle tier here in the Atlanta area that has the highest growth in price. Right now, our lower priced homes are up around 11.7%. And our higher priced homes are up at 9.2, but it's right in the middle. Those mid-range prices are up almost 20%, 19.6% price growth on that middle. And that's where the middle is, honestly, that's where the bulk of our buyers and sellers reside. We have a small percentage that's on the low end, and a smaller percentage, in that 15 to 20% range on each one. That middle section, and that's why we're feeling so much pinch there, is that we're up about 20% overall. Now, the good news is that we are going to start seeing some of those numbers flatten out. We're coming up on almost, or we're past a year on coronavirus. And if you guys remember what happened in March and April last year, the housing market had just ground to a halt. So
not only that, we had a lot of sellers pulling their listing off the market due to the fear of the pandemic.
Yep. So, we are going to start seeing those things really start to open up a little bit more here. And we'll start seeing price leveling off versus last year, because in the next 2 months is when prices really start jumping up last year. So we are seeing where the vaccines and the stimulus really seem to be fueling seller optimism, because here on the screen, if you see, the dark blue line is when it's a good time to buy, and the light blue line is when it's a good time to sell. Anytime when those two lines intersect, that's really good for us right now. And so we are really close to that. You can see over the past couple of years how those numbers have really kind of fluctuated and changed, kind of thing. But it still is a really good time, and we're looking at as more vaccines, as more and more Americans become vaccinated, as the stimulus keeps really fueling and energizing our economy. That's really good for housing. You may say, gosh, there's no inventory in Atlanta. I got to be honest with you, we aren't as bad as a lot of the country, because the 50 most competitive housing markets, Atlanta comes in at 48. So, we could be in 49 other worst markets here. Yes, we have inventory. Yes, we have tight issues right now. But look, it could be a lot worse. Right now, we rank 48th out of the top 50 most competitive housing markets in the U.S. So, not that misery loves company, but it definitely does help to show that is it could be worse, I guess. So, also, a new poll came out from the SCE housing survey, which shows that Americans prefer investing in homes over stock. If you look at the buying a primary residence versus investing in the stock market, it is most people will do that. And this really comes down, if you've ever read the Rich Dad Poor Dad kind of series and books on those kind of things, that's they really feel that a house is not a asset, that it's where you put your money into, and you should put money into other means. But you can see that here in the US, it's about buying a home. And that is where a lot of our wealth has really derived from. And that's when we're trying to work and help people build wealth, which is a big piece of our job. It's about owning real estate. It's about owning homes, kind of thing. Also, be looking for, Biden's new infrastructure plan includes a $5 billion proposal for local governments to change zoning. We're going to see that more and more zoning, not issues, but we're going to see a lot more zoning challenges coming in, being fueled from the government. So a lot of the suburbs where, the only thing that's been allowed for a lot of zoning has been, the big McMansions and that kind of stuff. expect to see a lot more things coming down the pike on the zoning front. We are already starting to see some of that. Here's the good news, bad news. From the time that zoning changes till we actually start seeing properties on the street is 2 to 3 years. So by the time that the zoning laws change, you to take a piece of dirt from raw dirt to be able to have a house on it is really at minimum about 2 years. So I'm glad to see that we are planning for more housing options, because we need more housing here in the U.S. We really, really need more houses. But a lot of our zoning laws make that extremely difficult. It's hard to build townhomes and condos in a lot of places. It's hard to build higher density properties in several places. We're going to see a lot of these challenges, a lot of challenges to zoning laws, and that is going to start to help drive some of that. We're also going to see some changes in neighborhoods that come from that.
Well, and the reason being is that a higher density population typically have issue with water and sewage, the infrastructure. So for cities that are taking the federal grant, they will be assisted in those items. But for the city that does not, you may not see that growth.
But we're already seeing some building moratoriums right now. Like we have several counties and municipalities that have put moratoriums on construction, not because they don't want the growth, it's because their water system can't literally handle more houses.
Water and sewer.
So we are seeing where some of that infrastructure plan really is needed just to be able to fuel the growth in the housing that we need. So a new survey came out from Zillow, and it said that 1 out of 7 homeowners is currently considering selling. But the ones who are considering selling, over a quarter of them say that buying a house is their biggest challenge. And so what we're really recommending to you guys is that if you're going to be doing this, as you're appealing to sellers, you have to make them buyers first. You have to make them buyers at the same time, or else they're not going to sell if they don't have anywhere to go. So, one of the big reaches out into our sellers is to make them a buyer, to get them engaged in the buying process, so that they'll turn around and list their house, not just with you, but we need that inventory. So I know that it's weird to say that, hey, in order to attract more sellers, you really need to be reaching out as buyers, but it's very, very true. If all I do is list my friend's house, I make them homeless, and that's a terrible thing. So we got to make them buyers first. Also, when it comes down to, how is the market going down? Is this a bubble? No, millennials are driving housing right now. It's supply versus demand. Right now, we got about 4.8 million millennials that are turning 30 in 2021. The first time buyer age right now is 33. And so as our younger millennials move into that first time buyer range, that's one of the largest age groups moving in there, kind of thing, because we have older millennials. Can you believe that older millennials are 40?
Wow.
Yeah. And then we have a lot of our younger millennials are first time buyers, kind of thing, are really moving into the housing market. There is way more demand than there is supply to fill it, kind of thing. We've been making babies faster than we've been building houses, and so that's going to continue to drive a lot of our growth. At the same time, a lot of our first-time buyers are turning to new construction in greater numbers, kind of thing. The new data from the National Association of Home Builders, as well as Fargo Housing Index, show that 43% of new homes went to first-time buyers. 43, okay, and so that's a really, really big deal. In 2018, that was only 32%, a third. Now it's almost half, and so.
I think a lot has contributed with COVID as well, because a lot of folks feel like when they buy a new home, it's free of previous. It's free of previous.
Nobody's other cooties
sickness
are in there
or anything like that.
Yeah. So, one thing that I want you to think about is that should you be offering a first-time buyer's guide for navigating new construction?
Absolutely.
Yes or yes or yes. Okay. We should be posting videos talking about this, how to navigate through new construction, because right now our buyers need our assistance in new construction. A lot of our builders, I love our builders. I love the relationship we have with our builders, but sometimes the builders right now are getting awful big for their britches, and we're seeing where they'll cut us out. And I'm seeing where they'll cut our commissions. We need to be engaged with our buyers from the beginning, and we need to be protecting them. I'm not saying that the builders are being predatory, but some of their actions are on the verge.
Questionable.
Yeah. So we need to really be talking about how, in educating our buyers on what the process is. No, you don't have to use their lender, but if you don't use your lender, they're not going to pay your closing costs and that kind of stuff. We need to have those conversations with them from the beginning.
And it's not a whole lot of negotiation room right now in new construction, simply because the limitation on new inventory. And the builder knows they're one of the biggest gang in town. So there we go.
Also, the Supreme Court had issued some clarity on how cell phones and marketing go, because there was this thing in front of the Supreme Court saying that, basically anything being called from a cell phone would fall under the Telephone Consumer Protection Act. And basically it didn't. It failed, or the Supreme Court rejected it, kind of thing. So real estate professionals may use their cell phones to make marketing calls to numbers not on the do not call list without prior consent. If the Supreme Court had held that up, then that would mean that you would have needed written permission, but prior to making a phone call. And so that did just come out. And so that is, we are good. We still need to make sure that we are not calling people on the do not call list, because that is no bueno and you could get fined. So where are termites the worst? Well, Atlanta actually dropped a spot down to number 5. So first, which I found really interesting, is that Miami and Los Angeles have worse termites than Georgia. I really thought it was Georgia. Here in Georgia, it's not a matter of when,
it's if you have any. It's
when. It's not if. You are going to get termites at some point, but when is that? And gosh, Miami and Los Angeles have more termites than Georgia. I mean, goodness.
And DC.
And DC, well, DC jumped up big time. And so we're at number 5. I bring up termites because one of the things that we're seeing a lot of our, in the contracts, everyone's trying to clean up contracts. And so termites tend to be one of those things that we just kind of like, all right, well, don't worry about termite. We still need to make sure that we're preparing our buyers and that we're letting them know what they need to do, and that they need to get termite bonds, and they need to make sure that they're protecting their investments in their houses. Several years ago, the lenders a lot of the lenders stopped requiring termite letters to be issued.
The only one that's currently required is VA loan. So, even though it's not a required item, if the seller refused to give you a termite bond, please go ahead and have it inspected during due diligence. So your buyer is not buying a property. That's going to be a huge issue and loss for them.
Yeah. I mean, most termite letters are like $50, $30, $40, $50 for a termite letter. And it really can give your buyer a peace of mind. Then they're going to need to get a termite bond anyway. It used to be that those things were just kind of included in, and now we're seeing a lot of contracts where it's like termites don't get mentioned at all. We're still the 5th worst city in the nation with termites. So we've got to make sure that we are still protecting our clients. It's a really important deal. Yes, your buyers will probably have to be the ones who pay for it, but we can't just go into this blind and act like termites are not going to be a big deal, or else, 3, 4, 5 years from now, we're going to have all these houses half eat up with termites because no one did their due diligence during this time. So please make sure that you're protecting your clients with that. If you need some me time, please, after this, Ming and I hang out at max1.rock/chat. If you'd like ask any questions, if you need anything, if we can be of any kind of service. So we hope that today provided some good value for you. We appreciate you. And if you need us, please call, text, or smoke signals. We answer it all.
Thank you. Have a great Monday.
Bye.